Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julie and today I'm super excited to share with you my 3 double-page scrapbooking workshop using the Mix Floral paper collection. This is a collection that was an online special and I don't know about you, I picked up the entire bundle and then I kind of set it to the side and I thought, hey, wait a minute, this would make awesome scrapbook pages. So we're going to go through that together. In this collection, you also have a stamp set and dies. And you know what? This is a really usable size for both cards and scrapbooking. As you can see, I really love these icons that I was able to die cut and color. And as the title of the paper suggested, I thought I'd bring in a little bit of mixed media, nothing too scary. We are going to color these in using a watercolor brush and you're going to see how fun it is and how much it packs a punch when you add it to your scrapbook pages. Let's take a closer look at this page before I show you the other 2 pages. I want to talk about these clusters and how they were created. I brought in a couple of other products that were part of this collection, and I really do feel that it finishes off and it highlights my beautiful flowers that are colored in right here on the top. So I am using the Plaster Painted 3D Embossing folder, and if you haven't had a chance to play with this or see it, it is pretty awesome. And it gives just that right amount of texture to this circle that I've used as a grounding spot for my clusters. I did use these ones right here. They are the Rounded All dies and they are super versatile. Let me show you this. Hopefully the camera will pick up on the details. When you create your circle, you'll go ahead and you die cut the circle first and then you'll emboss secondly. But this is what I use to kind of ground my clusters because let's face it, this paper is quite busy. I'm going to show you how I used it sparely on 3 double page layout. But before we do that, let's take one last look at these awesome clusters that were created with the circle, the embossing folder, and of course, these beautiful flowers. Now, if you want to get your hands on this workshop guide, you can do that in 3 ways. You can simply place an order on my Stampin' Up website. All the information will be listed down below. Or if you'd like to hop in on this creative journey, you can join my team where you will have access to all of my guides, not only my guides, but Chelsea's guide. We are a team and we work together on creating workshops every single month. So our aim is to provide you with inspiration so that you can not only purchase these beautiful products, but put them to good use with, hopefully, inspiration that will make your pages beautiful. I do want to point out one more thing, and I'll show you this in the guide. I created these really nice titles, and these are printable titles. If you've been here before, I've done this where I create a title and you can print it out on cardstock and add it to your page. Before I get ahead of myself and show you the other 2 layouts, let me show you how I colored these in, and you know what? It's pretty simple. All right, let's do some coloring, and this is plain old cardstock. I didn't use watercolor paper. You certainly can if you would like to, but I found that it worked perfectly fine on plain old cardstock. Now I am using a lot of colors, and you know what? Here's my pen running away from me. Stay. I find that when you create your own clusters or your own embellishments, I should say, you can color them whichever colors you want. But I pulled some of the colors that are in that collection, and that's where I drew my inspiration. Now, you could absolutely die cut this and just use it as a black and white element on your page, because the paper is so colorful, that would work as well. Let's start with the tulip right here, and I'm using 2 different shades of green just to give it a little bit of dimension. These are again colors that are in that paper collection, and you can see that I've been coloring quite a bit. I actually leave this in here until I am completely done, and I'm just going to add some water with my water brush, and I'm going to add the lightest shade. Now I might need some more in here, but I'm just adding the lightest shade at the top, and this is in real time. I want to show you that because you are creating your own embellishment, it doesn't mean that it has to take a long time. This is, I don't know, I find it very therapeutic, and I love to use what I have on hand. So coloring in with a water brush, using my ink pads. I do find that the ink pads from Stampin' Up, they color beautifully. The ink is just really, really easy to color with. So I'm going to try and talk my way through this and not make a mistake. Sometimes it's hard to color and talk at the same time. I don't want to speed up this process because I want you to kind of appreciate the time it takes, and it really doesn't take that long. From this point here, I'm going to go back in, and you can see again, I've been coloring, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shading, and I'm just doing little flick motions. I started from the top, and now I'm going from the base of these leaves, and we're just coloring them in. And you know what? I think it's really pretty. So this one here, I probably should go darker underneath because it's flipping over. So same thing here. I'm going to go darker underneath where it flips over. And I'm going to drag that down. This one here, I'm going to add a little bit of darkness underneath. And then I can go back into my light shade and just finish off all of these leaves. And you can see that it's not that onerous. All right, so we have those. One thing I did do, and so for the stem of the tulip, I did those in a darker shade. Whichever shade you use, I would use the darkest shade for the stem. And then I would just kind of mix in the 2 greens for the greenery. So that's that. Now that we're done with the leaves, I'm going to work on my tulips. And for those, I used Flirty, Flamingo, and Poppy Parade. And if you've never used a watering brush in between your colors, you just squeeze out the water, and the water comes out, and the brush is ready to be used for a different color. We are starting here with the Flirty Flamingo at the top of the tulips. And this is quite runny because I'm using regular cardstock, and it tends to be a little bit thirstier than watercolor. So you choose your adventure if you want to use just regular cardstock or watercolor. This technique works for both. All right, so I've got these colored in. Super easy. I tend to not remove the color when I'm working with the same family of colors. So for me, this is the same family of colors. So even if there's a little bit of pink in the lid, that's not going to do any harm to my ink pad. And usually by the time I'm done, it's dried out, and then I'll go in and I'll clean them up. But I knew that I wanted to show you how to color these in, and you can decide. Like, if you're not a fan of red or pink tulips, you could definitely make these a color that matches your photos. So that's what I like about creating my own embellishment. Not all the time, like, let's be honest, sometimes we just want to have a sticker and we want to put it on. But this here, I don't know, I really liked it. It's super easy. So we're almost done here. Let's do these small little flowers, and to me those resemble forget-me-nots, and they do come out at the same time of year for us here in Canada. So I'm going to use Boho blue. Let's bring in the layout, and this is why I use the boho blue, because it really does match the paper selection for this layout. So let's put that to the side. Let's add a little bit of water, and we are going to color these in. Now I might have to put more ink. I'm picking up the ink from the lid and I'm just kind of squiggling it on. You can see that even though we are creating our own embellishments, it's kind of a nice thing to do. So let's take a look. And what do you think? That wasn't too bad. I hope you give this a try because you can color these any color you want. Remember when I pulled out my stack of colors? I have a whole bunch of colors I can play with. You could make your tulips in yellow. You could make them in petal pink. You could do whatever matches your photos, and that again is the beauty. So let's move on to layout number 2. Let's talk about this layout for a moment. I really love the way it turned out, even though this paper is pretty busy, and I'm going to talk you through how to make your photos pop on this layout. But first, let's go through some of the details. So some of the details, of course, I did some splatters. So can you see the splatters right in the center and then right on the edges of these 2 pages? I brought in just a regular brush. This is a 0 painter's brush. I didn't use my fan brush for this one because when you do ink splatters in black, they can easily get away from you. And I find that I have a little bit more control when I just use a regular brush. So I did use it right here in the center. You can use ink, you can use paint, you can even use a shimmer brush if that's what you would prefer. But I do like the way that it dresses up the base pages for this layout. And again, here we have this really cool printable title. Let me show you what that looks like. This is a page from my workshop guide, and it gives you the instructions on how to do this. And I think that these titles look really, really good. I've got a nice black border around it, so if you're good at fussy cutting, and if you know me, I'm not good at fussy cutting, I usually run this through my guillotine trimmer. Let me show you that very quickly. You can use your rail trimmer, but definitely you can also use your guillotine trimmer. And what I do is that I line up that black line right at the edge. I usually don't use the edge right here because sometimes the printer will shift a little bit, so I make sure that I'm right on the black line. And look at that. It gives you the perfect little white border. For the next cut, to make sure that I have the same kind of margin, if you want, I'm cutting from the outside edge. So I want to make sure that I'm sitting right on that black line. I'm just going to adjust that, and then I'm going to cut. And you can see that I have a really nice clean line. And the last thing you have to do, there is a little bit of fussy cutting, but not a lot. I just take a longer scissor. For me, this works better because I can see where I'm cutting, and I just cut out the edges to dovetail my title. And this title is very generic, and it will lend itself to pretty much any photos that you want to add on here. I did add this to my page right here, and I did use dimensional to give it a little bit more presence on the page. But I really love the title, and I really love how easy it is to put it on your page. So what else can we talk about on this layout right here? And we'll get back to this in a moment. Again, you've got those gorgeous clusters, and those were done again with the watercolor. And here I basically looked at my paper, and I looked at, do you see this flower? And I tried to somewhat replicate the look of it. I wanted this to stand out but not take over the page. Now, when you're working with lots of colors and a busy print, when you combine the colors that are already in the paper collection, that's what makes it work. Well, that's my humble opinion anyways. So for this piece right here, you can definitely run it into your embossing folder, and you can cut it halfway down to make sure that you're going in the same direction, because there is a direction in this pattern. So you can definitely do that. And I love the subtlety of this embossing print on this layout. Again, we're dealing with pretty busy paper here, and somehow it all works. I think it does anyways. I hope that you think so too. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Here, when I was working on my clusters, of course, you've got that visual triangle that we talk about all the time, but I've been doing this lately and I really like it. So you've got like a primary cluster if you want. So this was the double stem of cornflowers, and then I cut it apart. So I cut this one apart. I did keep this one for layout number 1. Let me point that out. So this one here is a twofer if you want. I've cut this from a full piece, and then I added this one here. Now you can see that here I went with the traditional colors of the cornflower because I can. I can color these whichever color I want, but you get a twofer for this one. I tuck this one in, and if you can notice here in the background, I kind of colored that with the hobo blue. So you have a nice little background color within the die cut. And again, you can do this because you are customizing your embellishments. For your photos, I would highly recommend cutting them down substantially. So before you print them, I would even have a 1/4 of an inch border if you're sticking to the one mat. Now you can decide on this. What would work really, really nicely on this layout is 2 mats, a black one and a white one, and they should be cut at 1/8 of an inch so that you have that nice separation between the busy print and your photos. If you don't want to go through all of that, just make sure you give yourself a nice generous white border, and that will create the separation you need from the busy print and your beautiful photos. Let's take a look at this layout together, and I really like the way this turned out. Can you see that even though we're working with busy papers, you can totally do a nice soft layout with that paper collection? Now let me point out a few things about this layout. For all of the layouts, I did do some edge distressing with a blending tool on the edge of my base pages, and all of the cut pieces except for this cut piece right here. The reason why I didn't do it on this piece, I wanted it to blend in to my base page, which is white. Let's talk about this title for a minute and how I got to creating this gorgeous, gorgeous cluster and my title. Let's bring back this sheet. Now, definitely this is something you have to do before you cut the bottom off, because you want to have your full 8.5 by 11. You're going to go ahead, you're going to cut your circle, which is like a wonky circle, and you're going to put that on within the gray lines. There's some gray lines on this to help you position your piece of cardstock. I usually put this against my window so I can see the printed words through the window, and I can line that up. And then I have my washi tape to secure the piece down. I feed this through my printer again, and you have a printed title on your circle. Once you have your printed image on your circle, you will let it dry, of course. You may have to let it dry a little bit, and then you're going to run it through this embossing folder again and take a look at my circle and my title. Isn't that awesome? I really, really love the way it just instantly gives it that really nice texture against all of this white. And I did die cut another one, so the next size up in this pattern right here, and I think it looks really, really good. Again, if you're looking to recreate these pages and you're wondering, how am I going to keep track of all of this information? It's all written down right here for you. I break it down and I really go through a lot of details. So this Chelsea, we pretty much work in the same manner. You have a nice sketch, you have assembly tips, you have full size photos of the layouts to help you out. The last thing I wanted to point out here are these gorgeous flowers. These gorgeous flowers were actually cut out of the pattern paper, and do you see this? I did some watercoloring directly on the pattern paper, and yes, I did fussy cut them. You know, that's not my favorite thing to do, but it totally works here. You can pick whichever flower you want from this page here. The ones that I selected, this is like a pre-done cluster, and you may have to look at it like, where's Waldo? Which ones did she use? And I used this one here. Do you see there's like a little bit of an arc? And I fussy cut around. I kept some of these little flowers here and there, but this is just one piece. And then I found another one on another piece, and then I added it right here. And this one here, let me bring that up. This one here is on dimensional foam, and it's popped. So you've got a few flowers at the back. This one is at the forefront, and I even snuck in a few of those leaves. Now you choose your adventure. You decide how big or how small you want these clusters. If you want, you could bring back the tulips and keep them black and white and maybe just color the flower themselves. But I didn't feel like it worked on this layout. I really like the repeat of pattern. Here you have it in black and white, and here you have just a hint of color, and I really do feel that it's working out really nicely. I hope that I've inspired you to use the mixed in florals. As you can see, you can have some pretty neutral pages with this collection, but you can also have some fun pops of color. I really love the way this workshop turned out, and if you want to get your hands on this workshop, I will list that down below. All of the ways you can either earn it for free, or you can even purchase it if you are outside of Canada. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. If you've enjoyed this workshop, I'm going to link right here all of my workshops that I've created using Stampin' Up! Products, and I hope that they inspire you to keep on scrapbooking. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.